All right, everybody, how's it going? Good? All right, cool. All right, as you can see, no Ben Joravsky. All right? He gave a speech somewhere. I don't know. He'll tell you all about it when he gets here. He called me. He's on his way. He's in a cab right now, on his way. I'm sure he's annoying that driver. All right, it's Wednesday, October 30th. It snowed, guys. Whoa! They talked about it all day on the news. And teachers, whatever. We got to talk about the snow. It's always funny, the first day of snow in the news. They're like going live to like some subdivision, like reporting on like a fallen branch. Like, who cares? It's the branch. I'm here live. A branch fell. Live streamers, where are you at? We're going to, until Ben gets here, we're going to play a Benny J bonus interview. And you're going to pick. What up, Pat Rod? Pat Rod weighed in. You guys are going to pick here. I have two options for you people. Or person. Pat Rod, maybe the only one here. Pat Rod says, uh-oh, empty chair. You must have just tuned in. Ben will be here shortly, all right? He just called me in a cab. He's on his way. Gave a speech somewhere. Can't remember where. He'll tell you all about it when he gets here. All right, so we have two interviews that you guys get to pick from here. If you're listening on the live stream, weigh in, and whichever interview gets the most votes, that's what we'll go with. It's Wednesday, October. By the way, today on the show, we're talking the Chicago teacher strike, day 10. And after that, we're more than likely talking all things Donald Trump with legendary Chicago journalist Monroe Anderson and WVON host Atiba Buchanan. So there we go. All right, Daniel, what's up, dude? He says the live stream regulars are here. Awesome. Okay, so let's weigh out your options. Get the dramatic music going here. Your options here for Benny J bonus interviews. We can talk City Club Gate with WBEZ investigative reporter Dan Mihalopoulos. Very good interview. Or one hell of an interview about the CTU strike with teacher and owner of the Hideout Inn. Holy cow, this guy is just an emotional man and a great person to interview. Tim Tutton. Let's see. Oh, Brianna weighs in. Has been running late after school detention for him. Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. No, he gave a speech today. He's somewhere. I'm not sure where he's at. but he'll tell you all about it, all right? He just called me in the cab. He's on his way. So, once again, your picks for, okay, Dick Simpson, says Stephen. We're trying to get Dick Simpson on the program. I talked with Ben about that the other day. That's funny. Stephen says Benny J's early Halloween costume, Invisible Man. Okay, so once again, your options. City Club Gate interview with WBEZ investigative reporter Dan Mialopoulos, or CTU strike interview with CTU teacher and owner of the Hideout, Tim Tutton. Okay, Steven says Tim. The CTU one says Pat. All right, one more vote, and that'll determine it here. One more vote for Tim Tutton. All right, we're going Tim Tutton. Brianna weighed in, said Tim T. For sure, while we're waiting. Hey, it snowed, guys. Isn't that crazy? Whoa! They talked about it all day on the news. Good times. We're going to talk about more than the snow, all right? Teachers got the second billing on the news this morning because of all that snow. Branches falling. Reporters going all the way to the suburbs to talk about it. We're live here at Jim Jones' house. A branch fell. Jim, what do you think about that branch? Well, it fell down. Told my wife to stay inside. Don't want her to have a branch fall on her. Back to you. It was good stuff. All right, so we're going to play Tim Tutton. Hang tight with me here. I'll pull it up. All right, Chicago Sun. Well, you can do the same thing, by the way. You can download these interviews at both Chicago Sun-Times and Chicago Reader websites. I know you guys love watching that live stream. I don't blame you. But we do bonus interviews. Like I told Ben the other night, we pack a lunch here on the Ben Joravsky Show, all right? We make sure to give you guys tons of interviews to listen to. All right, so I'm scrolling through here. I'm going to find Tim Tutton, and I'm going to stop talking, and we're going to play this interview. All right, here we go. All right, our bonus with teacher Tim Tutton. Enjoy. When Ben gets here, we'll go through the game plan. We'll jump back. Monroe Anderson will be joining us. Atiba Buchanan will be joining us. We're going to be talking all things Donald Trump, but we are going to give you your updates on the CTU strike, day 10. Here's Tim Tutton. This Ben Joravsky Show, Benny J bonus interview, is brought to you in part by the International Association of Machinists and Aerospace Workers, Local 126 and District 8, the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local 9, the International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 150, and the Chicago Federation of Labor. Benny J, take it away.
Bonus time to Ben Joravsky Show. We're the hardest working podcast in the city of Chicago. We've been going at it all day. Dr. D, give yourself a raise. Take it out of petty cash, man. It's been working hard. We just finished an episode, a bonus episode about the Bulls. Now we're going to shift gears. Go to a different topic, one that's literally in the streets of Chicago, the Chicago teacher strike. And as we do all the time on bonus episodes of the Ben Joravsky Show, first I announce the date. It's Friday, October 18th, 2019. And then I ask my distinguished guest to introduce him or herself, in this case himself. Distinguished guest needs no introduction on this show because he's been on it before, but introduce yourself anyway. Guest, you are...
Hi, this is Tim Tutton, member of Chicago Teachers Union, local AFT, local number 1, and co-owner of the Hideout.
All right, very good. And do me a favor, just move that board that's in front of you right here out of the way, yeah, because this is being live streamed and didn't want to block it. All right, Tim Tutton. Yeah, a lot of people in Chicago in the music scene, they go, oh, Tim Tutton. Tim Tutton runs the Hideout, or he's one of the co-owners of the Hideout, or Tim Tutton's the guy who gets on stage and introduces bands, or he introduces Girl Talk every fourth Tuesday, or First Tuesdays every first Tuesday of the month. He's the guy who talks at the Hideout. But what people may not realize is that Tim Tutton has two lives, at least, and in another life, he is a public school teacher here in the city of Chicago. He's dressed in red, as you can see on the live feed, and he came bearing a sign. Can you see that sign? It's partly blocking Dr. D.
Yeah.
Chicago Public Schools on strike for my students. Yeah. There it is.
And
Tim.
The other side, parents, educators, students together.
Yeah, and parents, educators. So when about 2 weeks ago, I went up to Tim, and there were when I saw him at the Hideout, and there was talk of a teacher strike. They hadn't obviously gone on strike yet. And I said something. Tim Tutton, I think, Tim Tutton's a man of peace. But I thought he was going to throttle me when I said to him, so Tim, are you going to, if they go on strike, are you going to honor the strike? And Tim Tutton said, I am not a scab. And so you have been honoring the strike.
Absolutely. I honored the strike, and I honored the strike along with 94%, which it's 100. It really, there might be a couple of people but in our union, it's the 99%. I think, but the actual vote was 94%.
Yeah. All right. Tell folks a little bit about your day job as a teacher. Where do you teach?
I am a high school social studies teacher, middle and high school. I teach middle school students and high school students social studies, and I teach at Nancy B. Jefferson High School.
And where is that?
Nancy B. Jefferson High School is the Chicago public school that is located within the Cook County Juvenile Detention Center. Here in Chicago on Roosevelt Road and Ogden, where they come together. It's the big white building. Most people know it as that's where the kids, teenagers go to court, all right, if they are accused or charged with something. Actually, right upstairs on the first floor is the courtrooms, the second floor is the high school, and then third, fourth, and fifth floor are the residencies for our students.
Now, Tim, I've known you for a long time. When I first met you, you were teaching at the old Jones. It was a commercial school on State Street.
Yeah.
We were both young men in those days. You younger than me, so I know you've taught at schools, a variety of schools in the city of Chicago. What's unique about teaching in essentially a jail for kids? What's the unique part about that?
So it's not unique at all on the one side, and it's completely unique in people not familiar with education or the Chicago public schools. It would be completely strange to them. All right, and I can try to. It's hard to explain it, but I'll obviously try because we have more than a half hour. All right. And there's not a band waiting for me to just play.
You can riff.
It's just you and me.
Yeah.
And the 10 or so other people that might be listening to this right now.
Let's hope it's more than that.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Our school, Nancy B. Jefferson, is a high school. Mm-hmm. If you were inside the classrooms that we are in, you would feel like you're in any high school, in any typical Chicago public high school. All right? And that's how we operate. We have regular classes. Our classes are extended period, so there's 75 minutes a class. That gives us more time to work with the students. A lot of our students need a lot of extra focus. And so it's like a regular high school. What's different about our school is that it is in a detention center, all right? And so we do have guards, and there are guards in every room. And we call them YDS, which means Youth Development Specialists. So these are actual guards, but they are trained in working with kids. So every guard knows how to communicate and how to talk to kids. Is that a big deal? Why is that a big deal? That should not be a big deal. The crazy thing is that to people not familiar, I don't know, let me put it this way. Mm-hmm. Teenagers, juveniles, adolescents are going through a very tough time in their life, whether they are in Wilmette or whether they are in Englewood, or whether they're going to Whitney Young, or whether they're in the juvenile detention center a couple of blocks away. They are teenagers. Mm-hmm. And people often forget that. When a kid says to you anything like, you suck, okay? Let's say something I could say on the radio, right? Mm-hmm. If you're not familiar with a teenager, your instant response might be, the kid was wrong. He needs to stop, and he needs to be, he needs to be corrected. And that is inappropriate language for a classroom. To adults who work with teenagers, that might almost be a term of appreciation and affection for the kid. And so it's like, dude, so people that wear the uniform, police officers, YDS, at the detention center, they're trained. Mm-hmm. These are kids. And so when they say certain things or do certain things, they're acting out. That doesn't mean they're making a violent action, okay? So it's really beautiful. to be around these guards who really have a great rapport with the kids. It's hard for people to believe. And then us teachers, we're in there, and we have a lot of training too. We have a lot of professional development in how to work with our kids, because our students have, for the most part, social emotional needs. So we incorporate into all of our classes social emotional learning. We know that anything we say can be a trigger. Anything. Right now we're actually learning the Constitution, and we're doing the preamble this week, which, by the way, that was a perfect setup for me to talk about what are the first lines of the preamble. In order to create a more perfect union, can we say it again? Union. Can I hear that one more time? Union. What kind of union? More perfect union. Are we perfect now? Not yet. Are we going to get there? Yes, we are. Sorry, I just got back from the rally, but to my kids, I wasn't trying to.
All right, we're going to stop the interview right there. Ben Joravsky is here. Look, everybody, there he is. All right, say hey to everybody, Ben. It's this one. It's that camera over here in the corner. There you go. All right. Oh, there you go. Your microphone's on now.
Sorry, man.
All right, what did you think about that Tim Tutton interview?
Love Timmy T. Check it out, man. He was ground zero yesterday. The teachers were marching out at the Fleet soccer field. That's what they call it. What a joke. I could give you the whole lecture. Used to be a Fleet facility, everybody. It's where the city dump trucks were kept. And the city, they paid, Sterling Bay bought the land from the city, and then the city moved the Fleet facility down to the south side, and now the old Fleet facility on the north side is going to be the site of Lincoln Yards. So north side gets the retail and the apartments and all the TIF money, and the south side gets the garbage trucks.
Where the hell were you, by the way?
Oh, sorry. See, all you got to do is mention something going on in the city, and I go on a tangent. Wait, has the show officially started yet?
Sort of.
Oh, aren't you going to go?
Where were you? The live streamers are wondering.
I was at a birthday party, an anniversary celebration for Local 704, which is the EPA Employees Union. And Nicole Cantella was a guest on the show. She's president of the union, and they were having a meeting and celebrating their 23rd year anniversary. They were formed 23 years ago. And I was their keynote speaker. How about that, D?
Oh, boy.
And so it was a lot of fun talking to them. They're all fired up. They're taking a strong stand against Donald Trump's insane anti-environment policies, and they're also under siege with their from Trump in terms of their collective bargaining rights. So I was happy to show up there, and they're a great union.
So that's where he was. All right, now back to business here.
Okay.
What's the song of the day, pal?
I heard this. I took a cab to get here. I don't take Uber or Lyft, folks. I take cabs. All right. Look at you do that. That's my just millennial guy. Oh, I love Uber. I took a cab.
Yeah, I'm a millennial. I'm offended. But anyway.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. I apologize to all my millennial listeners out there. I love Lyft and Uber. They were playing a song, Gonna Keep On Loving You. Do you know who that is?
Hell yeah.
I don't wanna do. I'm just gonna keep on loving you. For 10 trivia points, who sings that?
REO
song?
Speedwagon.
Dang, man, look at the brain on Brad. By the way, my singing is just, people have been telling me how improved my singing has
One
become.
person. It was Stephen.
I love Stephen.
All right, your Ben Joravsky show for Wednesday, October 30th is moments away. But before we get into this, we need to thank the following unions for jumping on board and sponsoring this show. First up, it's the International Association of Machinists and Aerospace Workers, not Aerosmith, Local 126 and District 8. The International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local 9. The International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 150. And, of course, today's Ben Joravsky show is brought to you by our dear friends at the Chicago Federation of Labor. Ben, one more time, song of the day.
Gonna keep on loving you.
The Ben Joravsky show starts now. It is Wednesday, October 30th, and live from the Chicago Sun-Times Chicago Reader Studio on Racine Avenue, this is the Ben Joravsky Show. Today on the program, we're talking Chicago teacher strike day 10. And after that, we're more than likely talking all things Donald Trump with legendary Chicago journalist Monroe Anderson and WVON host Atiba Buchanan. And now your host, Oh, he does not take Uber or Lyft, okay? Cabs only. Chicago Reader columnist Ben Joravsky.
Yes, indeed. Hello, everybody. Ben Joravsky here. We're calling this The Sage Speaks. What is today, Wednesday? I've lost track of the day.
Oh, boy.
Oh, wait, hold on. Let me see. Wednesday. We're calling this The Sage Speaks Wednesday, and here's...
Tough day for me, I can already tell.
Yes, indeed, ladies and gentlemen. The sage has spoken, and the sage in question is the great, the legendary Karen Jennings Lewis. Everybody knows I love Karen Lewis. She's the former president of the Chicago Teachers Union. She led the teachers on strike in 2012. She showed the city of Chicago that, hey, you just don't have to take it when a powerful mayor says jump. You don't have to jump. You could stand up. You have, in this case, they have union-backed rights, federally protected collective bargaining rights. And they took to the streets to defend their rights, to defend their profession, and it inspired teachers throughout the country. Karen Lewis, of course, I was hoping she would run for mayor. She got sick. She couldn't run, and eventually she's retired from the Chicago Teachers Union, been largely quiet for the duration of this. According to the Sun-Times, they're keeping track. Day 14 of the strike. You know, they count the weekend days. I don't know, man. The Sun-Times is tough on those teachers. You know what I'm saying? I'm sorry, Ben. We're counting the weekend day.
I'm going to go lock the door in our studio. You know we do the show here, right?
Oh, I forgot. You know I love the bright one, all right? Okay, anyway, so it's day, whatever it is, 10, 14, you know, it depends if you count weekends or not. Anyway, the Chicago Teachers Union released a statement from Karen Lewis. You know, D, I'm always skeptical, you know this, about like whether the people
yes.
in question have written the things that their name goes. You know, I'm very, did he really write that? And so, you know, this is a skepticism based on 40 years or so of watching Chicago politicians, you know, lie, deceive, manipulate, et cetera, and so forth. But you know what? Because I love Karen Jennings Lewis so much, I'm going to say she wrote this. And even if it was someone from the Chicago Teachers Union who wrote it, someone from their communications office, it so closely resembles the way Karen looks at the world that I'm going to say that it's though she wrote it. But I'm going to give it that. I'm going to say Karen Lewis wrote this. So this is a statement that she put out. And this is Karen, man, showing a little love for Lori Lightfoot, all right, mayor of the city of Chicago, who has found herself in the position of defying teachers as they stand up on behalf of poor kids and poor schools. It's not an enviable place for any mayor to be, particularly a mayor who ran on a pro-kids, pro-equity platform and who regards herself, I'm sure, as a good Democrat. So Karen Lewis showing a little benevolence, a little big heart. Here's what she wrote. When Lori ran for mayor, she gave us hope that she would represent real change in City Hall. She ran on our education platform and made a commitment to reverse years of failed policy and horrible planning by her predecessors. She inherited a system built on revolving door leadership, misplaced investments, excessive standardized testing, and few wraparound services for our students. And she took office on a promise of being a progressive, pro-education mayor who gave her word for an elected school board for our district and said she would use her power to ensure that Chicago students have the resources they need regardless of where they live in this city. It's not too late. And it goes on there. Lori, keep your promises and let's get this done, etc. and so forth. I agree 100% with Karen Lewis. Everybody goes, Ben, Karen Lewis, you just love Karen Lewis. That's your girl. That's what they always used to say. Now they say it about me and Stacey Davis. You love Stacey Davis Gates. That's your girl, man. That's what everybody said. Back at bowling the other day. When are you going to get your girl to settle the strike? Like, I'll call her right now. Hey, Stacey, settle the strike. Man, I'll tell you what, it's hard when you're out there loving Karen Lewis and Stacey Davis Gates. But anyway, Karen Lewis, you know I love you. You said it right. Lori Lightfoot, come on now. Settle this strike. You know where the money is. The money's in the TIF. The mayonnaise jar, as we like to say, as Tommy Tresser did that little demonstration at yesterday's show. The money's in the mayonnaise jar. You know it's there. Just dip up some mayonnaise, scoop it out on a plate, and let's settle this strike. And you could be a hero just like, well, maybe not just like Karen Jennings Lewis, but you could work your way to the exalted Karen Jennings Lewis status. We got a great show today, everybody. Yes, indeed. Monroe Anderson's return. He's come back from the coast. He's probably wearing shades, because he was hanging out on the coast.
Take those off. It's gross outside.
Yeah, so he's super cool and hip, and he's been hanging out in Los Angeles. Actually, there's huge, terrible fires in Los Angeles. My heart goes out to those people. I was just talking about that with the folks at the EPA. Come on. Our environment's under siege here, and Donald Trump's going in the opposite direction, blowing up regulations that would protect the environment. Anyway, Monroe's back from the coast, and Atiba Buchanan will be here. Those two guys know more about Donald Trump than anyone in the world. So we're going to be talking Trump. And I know every now and then Dennis will give us updates, and we'll do some teacher strike updates. Right, D?
Yeah.
Boy, that's what I wanted to hear. Okay? All right, so before we do any of that, we're going to kick things back to the man, the myth, the legend, the pride and joy of Alton, Illinois, the man they call the doctor with the news.
How's it going, everybody? Yeah, that's right. If you missed yesterday's show, yesterday's Ben Joravsky show featured mayonnaise. Didn't see that one coming.
You got to give Tommy Tresher credit, man. That was quite a demonstration. And by the way, the funny thing is I posted this already. I had already written a column about the mayonnaise jar. It's like great minds think alike. So he came with the mayonnaise. The mayonnaise jar is an allusion, folks, if you weren't listening to yesterday's show or you have not read my column, to the fact that one aide to the mayor said that all the TIF money that's in the mayonnaise jar has been scraped clean. We've scraped the mayonnaise jar clean. Somehow or other, I do not believe that. I believe there's plenty more mayonnaise in that jar to settle this strike.
And for those wondering, it was Hellman's. All right, let's talk about the governor.
False. Nonsensical. Completely incorrect.
What is this?
That's what newspapers call the attacks against the fair tax. They can't defeat the plan on its merits, so they're trying to jump it on the...
All right, I played the wrong clip.
Oh, but...
That was kind of cool, though, right?
Yeah, well, I love a little...
Let's talk about the governor.
After years of neglect, Illinois is finally getting its mojo back, and we're open for business.
All right, JB. All right. Today, JB Pritzker will be, or maybe he already was, at 1871 in Merchandise Mart. What on earth is 1871? Well, it's a place you will never find our host, Ben Joravsky. I can promise you that.
Hey.
Because 1871 is Chicago's Center for Technology and Entrepreneurship.
No, what did I tell you that I was going to say I took an Uber or Lyft, but I didn't. I took a cab. Hey, I have a cell phone, right? Okay.
He's cool, guys. By the way, how's that Instagram account going?
We went viral the other day.
Really?
Yeah. Well, for us, I put a picture. I was at a restaurant. And everybody, all the wait staff had the same kind of shirt I had. So I had a couple of the waitresses stand around with me, and anyway, I forget. We went viral for us. So how about that, D? Huh? I'm going to post a picture today when I get Atiba and Monroe in the studio. Monroe is back. I'm going to make him wear my shades because he's super cool, having just returned from the coast. How about that?
Boy, the life that you lead. By the way, Pritzker is there at 1871 in Merchandise Mart to discuss criminal justice reform with Axios. Before we move on, any stories or memories of the Merchandise Mart that you'd like to share with us this afternoon?
Yeah, the Merchandise Mart. The Reader, our offices at one point was in a building adjoining the Merchandise Mart. So I'd take the train to the Merchandise Mart and walk through. And as I was walking through, invariably, D, I'd go through that food court, and there would be the Dunkin' Donuts. Got a confession to make. I love Dunkin' Donuts. Yes, D&D, man. I love D&D. So I would always stop and get a bagel. Do you like the bagels at D&D?
Oh, yeah, they're good.
Wow. Do you like the bagels at D&D? D. Ooh. Yo, get the bong out. Anyway, I get the bagel, and sometimes I get that little strawberry cream cheese they have at D&D. You ever had the strawberry cream cheese at D&D?
We're moving on. Okay.
Anyway, you asked me my memories, and memories.
You're Dunkin' Donuts.
No, actually, bagels.
Oh, this is bagels, the bagels. Mm-hmm. Are you a Boston cream man? You like the Boston cream donut?
I don't like donuts.
Oh, he's more of a bagel guy.
I am a bagel guy.
All right, people, we're moving on. We have entered day 10 of the Chicago teacher strike. Wednesday classes have been canceled, and while Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot and the city of Chicago have been at the bargaining table with the Chicago Teachers Union for hours on end, still, both parties cannot reach an agreement. The mayor met with the Teachers Union president, Jesse Sharkey, and vice president, Stacey Davis Gates, for 3.5 hours Tuesday. She laid out her latest offer, and again, no deal. We do have some Wednesday strike updates to discuss here, Mr. Joravsky, but first, we gotta hear from Stacey Davis Gates. The CTU held a press conference on Tuesday night. Here's CTU VP SDG.
Let's hear what she has to say.
Why wasn't there a vote?
Because it wasn't called for a vote.
We don't have a tentative agreement yet.
So is it fair to say you want to sleep on it tonight?
No, it's not fair. Look, I mean, here's the thing that I don't think people understand about this. Number one, the mayor set up an unfair expectation for this meeting today. The expectation that she set up was that we were coming here to vote on something, when it was clearly communicated that we were meeting with adults who have responsibilities, who needed an update, a face-to-face meeting about what negotiations had netted so far. We had a meeting where grown-ups got to ask questions, got to comb through some details. That is what this meeting was about. The mayor of the city, the Chicago Public Schools, they have the responsibility of communicating to parents what those next steps are. We have the responsibility too to communicate to our members about what is happening at the negotiating table. It was unfair to build up an expectation that this particular meeting was about anything except for what it was about. This meeting was about a discussion with members who are on strike so they can be fortified, so they can understand, so they can have clarity about what was happening at our during our negotiations. Look, we left the mayor's office because that's not the negotiating table, but we left the mayor's office this afternoon coming straight here. The things that were discussed at that table are not concretely on paper. There are still concepts that we are expecting to see on paper tomorrow. We will go back to the table tomorrow. We will explore the concepts that were presented by the mayor tomorrow at the table. That is where we are with respect to that.
Man, to be a fly on the wall at that meeting in
kidding.
the mayor's office between Lori Lightfoot, Stacey Davis Gates, and Jesse Sharkey going at it. You know, Lori Lightfoot, I heard what you say in the Ben Joravsky, so let me get over here, Stacey Davis Gates jumping up. So, yeah, no, listen, man, here's the deal. I remember this from the last strike with Karen Lewis. I remember after they cut a deal at the table, it was a tentative deal. And once again, all the nervous Nellies on the north side, they always call me D. All like these, you know, the upper middle class folks. Hey, Ben, get your girl. Come on, man. Get your girl to settle. All right? How come it's another day? Like, once again, like Karen Lewis is going to listen to me. And but Karen Lewis said, I'm going to take the agreement back to the teachers and make sure that they see eye to eye with it and they're agreeable to it. And I completely agree with that as a strategy. I mean, you've already been on strike for 8 days. I think it was last time, or 7 days. I can't remember how many days it was last time. So take the extra day to make sure that the teachers are all in. You don't want to end a strike and then just have a group of teachers that are upset and angry and resentful. And so that extra day actually helps, in my humble opinion. So now, where they are on this strike, I don't know. But I got a couple of off-the-record messages, D, saying from people on the inside, no names, no names, saying they think they're close to a settlement. So I'm sending out those vibrations, D. Come on, Lori Lightfoot. Those are good vibrations. Do the right thing, dip into that mayonnaise jar and end this strike.
Look, we want to stay optimistic and hopeful. We want a settlement. This whole process, collective bargaining, is ultimately about a settlement. The difficulty of getting a settlement here in Chicago has everything to do with all of the hurdles that are erected before we even get an opportunity to speak about a class size, staffing, all of the things that matter. Look, when you are bogged down by negotiating clean bathrooms, when you're bogged down by negotiating a 10-to-1 ratio, pre-K student to adult, those are the things that get in the way. They said no a lot. They said no, I can't do it, it doesn't make sense. They hit the ball. It was 10 months of this. I am frustrated, I am exhausted, I understand those things, but I do want to refocus this discussion. This HOD, this House of Delegates meeting, look, y'all know more about our Constitution at the Chicago Teachers Union than y'all know about the U.S. Constitution. Let me say that. Let me start there.
Come on, D, you gotta love Stacey Davis Gates, huh? And even the reporters, oh, that's a good one, Stacey. You know the reporters, man, they started off, they were kind of on the Lori. Let's be honest, reporters in the city of Chicago. You were a little on the Lori side of things. You were like, this is the Lori Kool-Aid. The reporters of the city of Chicago are drinking from that Lori Kool-Aid, much like I was drinking from the Kamala Kool-Aid. Remember that? After the debate.
Well, you had Lori Kool-Aid in your cup as well.
I've had some Lori Kool-Aid in there. I was drinking from the Lori Kool-Aid myself. It's a delicious brew, reporters, so I can understand why you would get intoxicated with it. But let's face it, now the reporters are starting to drink from the Stacey Davis Gate. Well, you know, Ben, this Kool-Aid, the Stacey Davis Gate's Kool-Aid is not bad. Hold on, let me take another sip.
Listen, social workers, nurses, counselors, right? One of the big things that happened yesterday was that it was widely publicized that there is almost a $100 million transfer of resources from the city budget to the school budget. Now let me say that again. We are in a situation where the city budget has transferred, the mayor has transferred almost $100 million of liabilities from the city to the school budget, while we are begging for a counselor or a restorative justice coordinator instead of a cop. We are paying Chicago Public Schools, the students in our city are shouldering debt, $33 million worth of debt, for having a cop in their school. Give parents, LSC, local school council members an opportunity to say, do you want a cop in your school or do you want a counselor in your school? Do you want a cop in your school or do you want a restorative justice coordinator in your school? Those are the issues that we are still talking about at the table. I think it is worth a discussion to give people that opportunity. I, for one, as a parent of 3, would much prefer a counselor and or a restorative justice coordinator in my child's school, because it matters. I want them to understand how to resolve conflict. I don't want them to see cops as just penalty. And that is how they are often used in our school communities. We want someone there who can offer counseling services.
Yes, listen, here's me and the cops in the school. Just one more time to clarify what Stacey was getting at. We talked about it yesterday. I know it's confusing, but the mayor of the city of Chicago, and this not just this mayor, this didn't start with Lori Lightfoot. This was Rahm and Daley. The mayor of the city of Chicago has been given extraordinary power of the purse over pretty much everything that happens in the city of Chicago, including schools, including the city government, of course, park districts, libraries, etc., and so forth. And as such, the mayor is able to shift money here and there whenever he or she wants to, whenever it meets his or her immediate objectives. And there's nobody really saying no. We saw this, the worst and most egregious case of this was when Mayor Rahm was the mayor of the city of Chicago, and he had the city council pass a TIF deal, which they were allocating, $50 million, I want to say, to build a basketball arena in the South Loop for DePaul. And the next thing you know, the money is not going for the basketball arena, it's going for a hotel. And then lo and behold, next thing we know, we understand it wasn't even the hotel in the South Loop. The money was spent at Navy Pier on the other side of the loop, nowhere near the South Loop. How is that legal?
I just biked around Lake Michigan.
Oh, thanks for the question. And how long was it?
Nearly 1,000 miles.
Oh, just thanks for the clarification, Mayor Rahm. I wish he was biking in the summer of 2013 when that money went flying out. So the mayor of the city of Chicago has extraordinary power to spend your money wherever he or she wants without much strike much from that sentence, without transparency, without any oversight. And so when Stacey Davis Gates said it was publicized, let's give credit where credit is due. France Spielman publicized it. All right, Bulldog reporter for the Chicago Sun-Times reported that the city of Chicago, Lori Lightfoot, had kicked some money to the schools from the TIF fund and then taken that money right back to pay some pension obligations. So it's like it's not settled in the school to help with the day-to-day needs of the public school students. And so she really wasn't using TIF dollars to help the kids in the school at that moment. She was using those TIF dollars to pay some obligations that we have. And yes, indeed, we have those obligations. I'm not saying we don't have those obligations, but the reality is money is just flying all over the place. It's going here, it's going there, coming right out of that mayonnaise jar, ladies and gentlemen. So there's plenty of money in that mayonnaise jar, right where she took it from to pay off those pension obligations to settle this strike.
Look, we discussed the trauma ad nauseum. here in Chicago, South Side, West Side. You all do that. You're news people. You know what I'm talking about. And so we're in a situation here. Yes, it is a fact that once this deal is settled, I do believe it is going to be a historical document that will begin to provide stability for the schools. And because it is that important, because we are in the moment, let's get it right. You don't go on strike for these many days to come back and say, I wish I would have. Thank you all. I appreciate it.
Was those the reporters cheering her? The reporters love her so much.
She had CTU members.
Oh, I was going to say, man, the reporters are like, forget the Lori Kool-Aid. We're drinking some Stacey Davis.
I love you.
SDG. The press corps, Chicago's reporter, the press corps. Man, we love Stacey Davis Gates. But she's right about that, D. They went on strike, and if you settle for something less, what's the point? By the way, breaking news in the Ben Joravsky Show. Breaking news in the Ben Joravsky Show. Monroe Anderson is officially returned from California. He's looking so slick and cool. Man, I thought it was Brad Pitt from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood walking in here. The pride and joy of Hollywood has returned. Monroe Anderson, a prodigal son, has returned to the Ben Joravsky Show. We'll bring him on a little bit. More like the... Say that's not Brad Pitt. He's Eddie Murphy. All right. Correction.
All right. So we heard from Stacey Davis Gates. That was Tuesday. Today, the CTU's bargaining team put on a fresh set of clothes, had some breakfast, and headed back to the negotiations this morning. CTU officials have told delegates to be prepared to reconvene for a potential strike-ending vote this evening if a tentative agreement is reached with CPS in the morning or early.
Wait, what did you just read? Read that back?
CTU officials have told delegates to be prepared to reconvene for a potential strike-ending vote this evening if a tentative agreement is reached with CPS in the morning or early afternoon.
All right, okay.
So we've heard from the teachers. Now let's hear from the mayor. Today, Lori Lightfoot was at Kennecott Park to visit students. She read a book to them. People took pictures. Oh, it was a great time.
What book?
I don't know. I didn't really pay that close attention.
Okay, just curious what book she read.
But
The Art of the Deal.
Donald Trump book. Kids, it's a scary, close to Halloween. I'm going to read a scary story to you. Have you ever heard of Donald John Trump?
She was at Kennecott Park to visit students. She told reporters, quote, "I'm not surprised by the length of the strike."
When this whole thing started, did you have any idea this strike was going to drag on this long?
I'm not surprised by the length of the strike.
Not at all?
No.
And why aren't you surprised?
There's a lot of work that we could have done sooner, but we didn't start to do really until after the strike was over. But what I'm hopeful for today is it's been a long journey. Unfortunately, I think there's a lot of harm that's been done to our young people. But my hope is that when the House of Delegates reconvenes today, that there will be a robust presentation of the tentative agreement that's on the table, and that they will vote on it up or down. And obviously, I'm hopeful and prayerful that this will be approved, but whatever the result is, we'll deal with it at that time. But I'm looking forward to hearing the results of the House of Delegates vote today.
In all due respect to Mayor Lori Lightfoot, a candidate I voted for twice, Monroe Anderson, not once, but twice. Thank you, Robert Mueller. In all due respect, there's a lot of harm to young people. The harm to young people in the city of Chicago did not begin with this teacher strike. In fact, the real harm to the young people of the city of Chicago predates this teacher strike by years and years and years and years. And that is just years and years and years of inequity, where poor schools get less than wealthy schools. Monroe Anderson's been in the city of Chicago even longer than I am, if that's such a thing as possible. And he knows what I'm saying is the truth. Harold Washington was like the mayor that was going to deal with inequity in the city of Chicago. Unfortunately, Harold died in office. And ever since then, Monroe, nobody has really dealt with this issue. They're just burying it and pretending it didn't exist and allowing it to fester and exacerbate itself. And so finally, the teachers union, my humble opinion, put it on the table. Are you going to put money up for nurses in poor schools? Or are you going to put money up for librarians in poor schools? Or are you just going to let these inequities exist forever and ever? So the notion that kids, because they missed 8 days of school, By the way, Monroe Anderson, when he was a young scholar growing up in Gary, missed 8 days of school just ditching school once hanging out. Never.
I didn't ditch school till I got to college.
Okay. You talk about irreparable harm to young Monroe Anderson, the scholar, when he discovered marijuana at college. Oh, my God. Anyway, all joking aside, I do believe that the strike has forced the city to confront some issues. Now, whether they deal with those issues in an honest, real way, Monroe, is another issue. But that's my humble opinion. Do you disagree with me, sir?
No. In fact, what was really interesting is all these red hats and scarves and what have you were walking down my street yesterday. And I was trying to figure out what in the devil was going on. And they were protesting Lincoln Yards. And it was a lot of people.
Yeah, there were a lot of people. Yeah, you don't live that well, you're kind of east of Lincoln Yards. I guess they were on their way from the Oscar Mayer.
A block and a half east of.
Oh, you're that close?
Right,
oh,
exactly.
Man, he loves Lincoln Yards.
Right.
My property's going up in value.
No, my taxes. That's what I'm worried
By the way,
about.
if you notice the red hat, solidarity with the teachers. But anyway, that's my opinion.
I thought you were looking for another loser team to
He's wearing a Bulls hat.
There was the Cubs, and there's the Bulls.
And your Bears. Yeah,
Right,
he left his beloved Bears out of that list. Great quarterback you got there, Monroe.
Well, fortunately, I was out of town when they were doing most of the losing.
You're back in town to join the parade because it's going to start up again next Sunday.
We got 2 more clips from Lightfoot here at the press conference.
Go ahead.
Let's hear him out here.
Have you reached an agreement with them?
We put a proposal on the table yesterday, which we've asked them to take to the House of Delegates.
Do you have regrets?
In life, in general?
No. Do you have regrets about the pace at which this went?
I believe that our team has negotiated in good faith from day one, and that really day one started back in the summer after I came into office. They've negotiated their tails off, particularly over the last few days, very late nights, very early mornings. When you think about a strike in this context, this isn't we're making cars or widgets. This is about children. And the speed and the sense of urgency within which the work gets done is critically important because of who we're talking about. We're talking about young children, as we just saw, whose lives are dramatically affected by their ability to be in class, to connect with their teachers, to have instructional time. These are all the things that we all should keep foremost in our mind, and I'm hopeful that we will be in a position later today that this work stoppage is over, but really the ball is totally in the CTU's court, and I'm hoping we get there.
The ball's totally in the CTU's court.
You like that? You're a Bulls fan.
I am a Bulls
Basketball.
fan. You know what? I'm just not going to, I'm not going to say anything because I'm going to put out some positive vibrations. I feel the mayor of the city of Chicago was asked that question, do you have any regrets? And so it's people who are, let's put it this way, people who have the will and the confidence and the self-esteem and the sense of entitlement to do something as daring and bold as to run for mayor when nobody really knows who they are not going to admit that they have regrets. Regrets are for people like Ben Joravsky to say, damn, I wish I had done that differently, or man, what a stupid move I made.
I'm guessing she's wondering, why did I want this job? What was I
That's
thinking?
her biggest regret.
Right,
I could be a corporate lawyer making big time money. So
now
that's
they had to
probably her
worry
regret.
about billings. That was it.
She'd be billing people, man. Like, oh my goodness, have you ever been billed by a lawyer? Anyway, so my guess is that's probably a bigger regret, but I'm going to let it go, D. I'm going to be bigger than that.
Yeah, but let me make a point.
Okay, go ahead.
You in a school system as large as Chicago's, there are built-in inequities. For example, when Rauner gave out the computers to the kids at Walter Payton, Payton didn't need it nearly as much as a school on the south side or the west side. But schools that are in wealthy areas are high middle class areas, they get parental support. Their parents can afford to contribute to the school. So any shortcomings that may come out of the school board, the parents make a difference. Whereas if you're from a welfare area or something like that, you can barely feed your kid, let alone donate money for computers or pianos or whatever.
And I agree with you 100%. And those inequities are baked into the system in a way that you can't even discern it when you're looking at a budget about how much the school spends per kid. And that's an excellent point. What Monroe was alluding to is the fact that Bruce Rauner, before he was governor, he kicked, I think it was 50 grand. Don't quote me, everybody. Look it up on the internet. Or okay, let's say it was 100.
Yeah.
And he kicked that to the Walter Payton High School. Somehow or other, his kid got into Walter Payton.
Or he was one of his kids.
One of his kids, yeah. Some kid got in. The phone call was made, and the kid got in, and so he kicked in the money to Walter Payton. And you're absolutely correct. If you're going to make a contribution, I'll put the euphemistic way of doing it, as a sign of appreciation that your kid was allowed to go to this really super smart school in the north side of Chicago, maybe you should make the contribution to the whole city or to poor schools on behalf of your clout that got your kid into Walter Payton. But you're right, man. When I hear north side parents whining that they're upset and they don't understand why, and there's a few of them out there I can think of. Oh, I just don't understand these teachers, why they would go on strike. Oh my God, my poor kid. I'm going crazy with my kid. You know what? The strike is not about your kid. The strike is not about your school. The strike is about fairness in the city of Chicago. Just an attempt to get at fairness. So why don't you just sacrifice something for once in your life for someone who is not as wealthy as you are? That's how I look at it, Monroe.
One more example. I know I should be talking about Trump.
No, we'll get to Atiba's downstairs. We'll get to Trump in a little bit.
Yeah, okay. Oscar Mayer. You know about the preschool, right?
Yeah. Oscar Mayer on the north side of Chicago, Lincoln Park area.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Where they have been using Oscar Mayer, the real estate agents have been using Oscar Mayer as a selling point for real estate there. They say, and this house is in the Oscar Mayer School District. Now, years ago, they didn't do it but things have changed.
Lincoln Park is a different Lincoln Park than it was in 1960.
Exactly. So because of that, young couples were buying houses, $1 million houses, in the neighborhood where they could send their kids to preschool for nothing because the CPS was picking up the tab. Well, that changes. I think it's changed as of last month.
So they're going to start charging.
So they're going to charge. Mm-hmm. So we'll see.
We'll see how that goes. And as in a general sense, I believe in universal education for all. But the reality is, if you're subsidizing kids who go to an upscale school like Oscar Mayer at the same level that you're subsidizing kids that go to a poor school in a poor neighborhood, really it's not fair because the kids at Oscar Mayer already have advantages when they enter the school system.
Because they have parents who are educated and therefore can help them with their homework if they need it.
And who have money.
Yeah.
And who have money.
Right.
Things aren't working out, I'll hire a tutor.
Right. Exactly.
Send them to a special school on the weekend.
Exactly.
This, that, and the other thing. But we know this. I'll tell you one thing. We will be talking Trump with Monroe Anderson. But Monroe knows how things happen in the city of Chicago because before he became the Ben Joravsky Show's Trump expert, he was a reporter for the Sun-Times and the Tribune. And he was Mayor Sawyer's press secretary. So I always like to remind people that he had a life before he became a Trump expert.
Hey,
but none of it was as good as being on the Ben Joravsky Show.
Aw, what a sweetie. Hey, did someone say Bruce Hour like 5 minutes ago?
Yay for our teachers! Yay for our teachers!
All right, here's one more clip from Mayor Lightfoot at today's press conference talking about the teacher strike.
Mayor, have they committed to putting your proposal before their House of Representatives for vote?
No, they have not.
Were you expecting they would last night?
Say it again.
Were you expecting they would do so last night? Now, frustrated are you they did not?
My understanding is that there was a discussion of the parameters of the deal last night, and that this was going to be socialized over the course of last night and this morning, and then they would go back to the House of Delegates today. But obviously, I don't run the CTU, so I'm hopeful and aspirational, but really the ball is in their court as to whether or not they present the deal and whether or not they want to end the strike. I hope they do, but really everything is really in their hands at this point. Yes, sir.
There you are, day 10 of the Chicago teacher strike interview.
Lori Lightfoot, everything's in court. Oh, man, once again, Dee, I'll say it again. Man, I wish I was in that room to watch Stacey Davis Gates and Lori Lightfoot and Jesse Sharkey. And Jesse Sharkey was trying to get a word in edgewise. So that must have been very interesting and very enlightening.
Oh, you mean Jesse Sharkey?
Right now,
well, he was having a tough time.
Oh, man, that's because, as Dennis knows, no one has suffered, by the way. Can we give a shout out to Dr. D? He lives across the street from a public school in the city of Chicago, and people may not realize this about Dr. D. Even though he comes from Alton, he does not get up at the crack of dawn with the Roosters. He's got more of that rock star lifestyle, so he likes to get up, Ben Joravsky time around 9 o'clock or so. But every day every day since the teachers went on strike, Monroe, about 6 in the morning, the teachers are out there with their pickets, cars, yeah, right on, man.
I guess I'm up.
So, hey, teachers, when the strike is over, give a shout out to Dr. D. He's been with you by the way, he has been with the teachers. He didn't bat an eye. He wasn't like some of these reporters who were drinking that Lori Lightfoot Kool-Aid. Hold on.
and we view that this is a civil rights issue. We think that
This is
the
good
conditions in
audio.
our schools.
The truck horn.
We think that support for our students that need trauma support, social workers, psychologists, counselors.
Yeah, man.
We think that adequate services through special education.
All right, very good stuff.
So there you are, everybody. The latest on Chicago teacher strike, day 10. Weigh in on the live stream. Let us know your thoughts if you'd like. And hey, podcast fans, that's you, right? You listen to this podcast. I'm assuming you're a fan of podcasts. Well, we got one more podcast to add to your lineup, The Fran Spielman Show. It's now available as a podcast. She's our studio roommate. And I give it about 3 weeks until she complains about Ben leaving his stuff everywhere. But hey, she's here, all right? Fran holds nothing back. That's why I said that, because she holds nothing back. She's going to tell Ben exactly how she feels. She goes deep into City Hall to bring you the real scoop on Chicago politics. And now, that's NOW now, you can listen to her show on all of your favorite podcast apps. Head to City Hall with Fran and get even more great political coverage from the one, the only, Ben's beloved bright one, the Chicago Sun-Times. Listen and subscribe now at suntimes.com/Fran-show. That's suntimes.com/FRAN-SHOW. Don't go anywhere. The Ben Joravsky Show will be right back after this short little break. And when we come back, Atiba Buchanan and Monroe Anderson are going to be talking all things Donald Trump. It's the Ben Joravsky Show, live from the Chicago Sun-Times.
Chicago Mayor Rahm Emanuel, Chief of Staff to President Obama, somebody that knows Joe Biden very well. Give us your rating of his performance so far, Rahm.
Well, I think Joe Biden brought energy. That was his first, I think, hurdle he had to clear. He brought passion to this effort, and I also thought he brought a nice, it was a gesture to Beto, the way he handled, obviously, what happened in El Paso. So on that level, he's engaged, and I also think he did something very smart. On healthcare, he made Bernie his foil, not Elizabeth Warren, which was smart in that effort, in that time. I also got to say this. I thought Amy, Kamala, and Beto all had their moments. I think the person that got hurt so far is Castro. He looked mean.
He looked petty, some people were saying on Twitter, but we will see there's still about...
Did you know that 40% of the people in Illinois opt to be cremated? Well, it's true. And Chicagoland Cremation Options honors their wishes by providing cremation services directly to the general public. Chicagoland Cremation Options provides an affordable, ethical, and easy cremation arrangement, whether in person or online. Save thousands and streamline the process by going directly to Chicagoland Cremation Options. It's a family-owned business operated by my good friend, Douglas Klein. Here's how you reach them. ChicagolandCremationOptions.com. One more time, ChicagolandCremationOptions.com.
It's Chicagoland's adult entertainment playground. It's the world-famous Admiral Theater, 3940 West Lawrence Avenue. The Admiral is homegrown from Chicago, and it's the most conveniently located club in all of the city. 15 minutes from the O'Hare Airport in downtown Chicago Loop. Voted Chicago's best strip club, the Admiral has showgirls galore and a variety of adult entertainment shows. The world-famous Admiral Theater, open every day from 7 p.m. to 6 a.m., 3940 West Lawrence Avenue. For events, showtime, and other information, visit AdmiralX.com. Must be 18 years of age or older to enter.
And for the record, I love puppies.
Commercial break over. Welcome back to the Ben Joravsky Show, live from the Chicago Sun-Times.
Monroe Anderson, as we've been saying, took off for the West Coast. Was wearing shades. I've been driving a Corvette Stingray with the top down.
Our live stream viewers can't see this. It's not in the camera view, but there's a surfboard in the corner of the studio.
He's got the surfboard. He's been smoking that good marijuana weed. I mean, he's been Oh, wait, sorry, take that. Wait, it's legal in marijuana, D. Okay,
California.
Yeah, it's legal. Not till January here, bud.
They have brands.
They have their own.
You go to the store and they got, like, you go for booze or something like that. They have these various brands.
I see.
And my sister is just getting back from there today, and her mind was blown at the exquisite brands.
They don't have that in Gary, Indiana.
Right, exactly, right. I know, exactly.
Gary, Indiana. Monroe Anderson's a little like the Jackson family. Got out of Gary, Indiana as soon as he could. Never looked back.
Well, as the joke goes, Indiana is a great place to be from.
That is correct.
Far away.
The views and opinions expressed by Monroe Anderson to our beloved Hoosier state are those of Monroe. And
Indianans, please keep listening.
Hoosiers, we love you, Hoosiers. Anyway, so Monroe's back from the coast, ready to talk some Trump, and Atiba Buchanan is, he didn't even go to the coast. He's always ready to talk Trump. Atiba, when Dennis introduced you, he introduced you as VON talk show host. And so that's good enough for me to say. Is that good enough for you to say?
It is. We're actually on again this Friday.
All right.
So what is it, like almost a month straight now?
Cool.
Well, actually about a month, a little over a month. So yeah, it's informally our spot. So
All right.
we're happy about it.
And that would be Atiba Buchanan and the great David Seaton.
Friday nights, 9 to midnight.
9 to midnight on WVON. And I'm going to bring David Seaton back. I keep promising to have the great David Seaton, Neil Muhammad debate. We're going to get that. We're going to get, both parties want to do it. It'll be a lot of fun.
I'm bringing popcorn.
Yeah, and I'm bringing a bouncer.
David Seaton and Neil Muhammad, ladies and gentlemen.
You and Monroe got a similar little style going today.
Oh, I know. Yeah, he got the memo.
Yeah, man. Those hats are super cool. If you can see that on the TV thing.
His is cooler. His is a Kango.
Yeah.
Mine is from Burlington Coat Factory.
Okay.
There's a difference.
But they're both. I actually kind of like your hat a lot. I'm not saying I don't like your hat, but your hat it goes with your sweaters.
Right. I'm trying to coordinate and keep it coordinated in light of my man passing today. We're so sad about that, John Witherspoon.
Oh
yeah.
I did not know that. I've been in the booth all day.
If you haven't seen Boomerang, you wouldn't know what I just referenced.
Yeah. Boomerang was one of the great movies.
Or Barbershop.
Yeah. He died?
Friday. Yeah, he died this morning.
Oh. Wow, I did not know that.
Yeah, he's in the Friday series.
Yeah.
He was the voice of the grandfather in the Boondocks.
Pops from the Wayans brothers.
Yeah.
He
Wow, I did not know he died.
He stayed busy.
So that's in honor of him. And I, of course, am wearing my Red Bulls hat. In honor.
Representing.
I'm representing the Chicago teachers, and appreciate them for standing up for poor kids in the city of Chicago who usually get overlooked. Anyway, enough on the teachers. We're going to we have a special guest at the end of the show, a teacher herself sitting here. I'm going to keep that a surprise, a mystery guest. Talk a little teacher issues in the city of Chicago. But Monroe and Atiba, welcome back. And Monroe, it's been too long without Trump talk with you. So before we just take the deep dive into some of the specific issues like Colonel Vindman and William Taylor and Trump's insanity with his speech to the police chiefs, and what else? The impeachment, and Nancy Pelosi going to have a vote. I'm just going through all the lists we're going to cover. Trump losing his mind when he announced that the special ops killing of Baghdadi. Before we do any of that, just any general impressions. 3 weeks it's been since you've been on the show. Any general impressions of the state of the country under President Donald John Trump in the last 3 weeks?
Impeach, indict, imprison.
Kind of
in that order.
In that order.
Exactly, in that order. You impeach him, and then and I'm talking about full blown impeachment, not just the House but the Senate. Then you indict him for all the crimes he's committed, and then you put him in prison. You lock him up. Lock him up.
Okay, Monroe Anderson. Well, I guess you're consistent at least. All the fires in California haven't changed your point of view on things.
Yeah, no, and if you recall, it's been 2.5 years since I first brought this up, and tomorrow the House will vote on rules for the impeachment.
All right, well, I would start with that one. Atiba, what's your thoughts about the House voting on the rules?
Yeah, absolutely. So what they're doing is just a strategic move to take away the argument that Republicans have had about process. Republicans have been completely unable to address any of the substance of what the Democrats are doing. They certainly have not been able to, in any reasonable fashion, to justify any of Trump's behaviors concerning Ukraine. In light of that, they've only been left with, well, we don't like the process. So you saw a bunch of House members who actually had authority to be in the meetings bombard a meeting that, again, they had authority to be in. So, making that spectacle. You've seen all types of distractions and deflections. Again, their primary argument has been, this is done in the dark of night. We need to have public hearings. We need to be able to cross-examine, blah, blah, blah. So they've just really complained about the process. This now eliminates that argument. So we're going to sit back and watch and see how they move the goalposts.
And it falls into the careful what you wish for category.
What do you mean by that? What do you mean by that?
You got to have all these fact witnesses on TV telling the story again, retelling the story on how Trump committed a crime. Mm-hmm. Although he's confessed to it, Mulvaney confirmed that he committed it.
God, that's another thing on the list I forgot.
Yeah, you're right.
Mulvaney,
yeah, right, exactly. He wasn't invited to the killing of Baghdadi.
The chief of staff.
Yeah, chief of staff being punished.
Yeah, right.
Well, let's talk about
or out of favor. Who knows?
The political aspect of all this. The Democrats, I've had people come on the show. David Ferris, a political scientist, came on the show since you guys have been on, and in his opinion, he was saying that Nancy Pelosi is a brilliant strategist, and she's waiting for things to work on her calendar, not Donald Trump's calendar, in terms of having this vote, if she has it at all. He was suggesting that she not have the vote. Atiba, do you think there's any, possibilities that could backfire from a strategic point of view for the Democrats to have this vote, or do you think it's just the smart thing to do?
I think it's a smart thing to do. What we know about Speaker Pelosi is that she's not going to have this vote without knowing it's going to go through.
Right.
So
right.
She's all, that's already been confirmed. She there won't be any surprises. And the only thing I can see is upside, because people are really, most of their minds are made up. If you're an anti-Trumper, then fine. If you support Trump, you're going to believe it's a witch hunt. But for the few people that are kind of on the fence, these public hearings are going to mean a lot. And right now, again, with impeachment basically being a political process, it is very, very important to get to begin to try him in the court of public opinion. And I agree that now that they've had a dozen witnesses come in and verify what the whistleblower said, I think the Democrats finally have the comfortability to go ahead and bring this to the light of day now.
Right. And what's amazing to me is that the Republicans are still going on about the whistleblower and his or her credibility, when they don't even need the whistleblower anymore because it's been confirmed on so many levels that Trump strong-armed Zelensky to try to get him to come up with some dirt on Biden.
I don't even know ultimately if the objective was to get dirt. Just Trump wanted Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, to announce that they were doing an investigation of Biden. They didn't even have to come up with any dirt. Just announce.
That would have made him happier.
Oh, yeah, it would double. Yeah, right, they manufactured some case against Biden's kid.
Yeah,
you're absolutely correct.
And then we have Giuliani running a shadow government and also trying to make a little pocket change, or get a little something on the side through the oil fields there. I mean, this is going to be, now that the can of worms has been opened, it's going to be fascinating because there's some crooked stuff, some really criminal stuff going on.
Yeah, I think it's going to be fascinating, too, from the perspective of how deep it goes.
Right.
This is not just about Donald Trump.
Right.
This touches Mike Pence. This touches Giuliani, Mike Pompeo. The list goes on. The only person who's going to be sitting back laughing is John Bolton.
Explain that.
Well, he was the national security advisor who was unceremoniously fired by Donald Trump. And part of what, it's been reported now that part of what John Bolton was upset about was Rudy Giuliani's shadow campaign, and that being against American interest. So somebody in the room had some type of common sense about themselves. So again, he has been, it has been reported that he has been way against what Rudy Giuliani has been doing. So again, he's one of the few people that would not take a part in this at all. Right. And he's going to sit back and watch a lot of his comrades either get charged or dismissed or impeached or whatever.
He called it a drug deal.
Right.
John Bolton did.
Yeah, he called it a drug deal. And, what's going to come out, I mean, it's been reported, but what's going to become apparent to the American voter before this is over is how our national security was endangered as a result of this deal, because we have Russia and the Ukraine in a shooting war. They need the money that Congress had passed to come to them. Had allocated that Trump was holding up. And what that did and does in effect is it helps Russia, surprise, and it hurts us in the sense of Ukraine is one of those frontline countries that works as a buffer for us and Europe against Russian advances. And so what you're going to have is Putin now trying to get to the smaller former Soviet Union countries like Georgia, and see if he can take them back. He wants to make the Soviet Union great again, and he's doing a better job at that than Trump is at what he promised to do with America.
And he's doing it through Trump.
Right, exactly.
I mean, if Trump had his way, he'd be back in the G8.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, let me ask you about that, Atiba, and get your thoughts on this, and then Monroe as well. Do you think that Donald Trump is consciously being an agent for Putin's interest, or do you think that Donald Trump is just a bumbling fool whose antics are working to the benefit of Putin?
Man, that question is surprisingly tough.
No, it's not. No, it's not. No, it's not.
No, because
Because
on so many levels he is a bumbling fool, right? But on the other hand, I really feel like that there's something Putin must have on him, or just there's I just see both of those scenarios, I guess, being possible at the same time.
Right, exactly. It's both of them. That's what it is. He's a bubbler. He He's a Keystone crook, and he is an agent, a Russian agent. They were loaning him. The Russian oligarchs have been giving Trump money since the 90s.
Yep.
Because of his failing casinos and what have you.
And no one here would give him any money.
Right, and no one here would give him. So he is indebted to them. They have all sorts of secrets on him. And plus, if he could wave a magic wand, he would be the type of strong man that Putin is.
So on top of everything else, he has sort of like this fantasy crush.
Right,
on
exactly.
Putin.
And he likes strong men in general.
Yeah.
You know, because now you have to remember or take into consideration that his empire is basically a mom and pop store. He didn't have a board of directors to report to. He just did whatever he did, stockholders, anything. He just did what he did and screwed up a bunch of businesses. He's a failed businessman, but he got to do what he's done. And he wants to run. He thought he could, and he keeps trying to run America the way he did his business. And that's not the way it works.
Well, Atiba, I have to tell you this. I've been listening to Monroe say pretty much the same thing for quite a while.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he's on to something. I wrestle with the question I asked you.
Yeah.
Because to accuse American president of being an agent of Putin is quite a powerful accusation. I'm not sure I'm ready to go there yet.
I am.
Right.
No, I mean, because, no, let me tell you why. Because what Donald Trump has done, he's normalized a lot of his foolishness. So, you know, if any other president had stood next to Putin in Helsinki and said, I don't see why it would be him.
Right.
Like that
You're right.
Put Obama there.
Right.
Yeah,
like
put
that would have
Obama
been
there.
that would have been it. But because we've normalized, he's just bombarded us with it's easy to forget. Like, no, he said, forget U.S. intelligence. He said he didn't do it, so I believe him. I don't see why it would be. I don't see why he would do it. And I mean, it was just that was an amazing moment.
Right. Nancy Pelosi said, "All roads lead to Putin."
Right.
And that's what it is.
All right, let me just make a slight difference here. Take phrase it differently to get your reaction to this. When you say he's normalized his craziness, and Monroe, you agree, I'm not so certain that he has done that across the board. I believe that there's still a majority of the people in this country, either those who are consciously paying attention, really paying attention right now, or those who are about to start paying attention, who do not accept this as normal behavior. But what he has done is taken over the Republican Party and captivated the Republican Party's base so that they fall in line with whatever insanity comes out of his mouth, even if it is abnormal. And that, to me, is really scary because we're heading forward. We're seeing a parade. We'll get into the witnesses and what they've said, Atiba, but I don't see any Republicans, and I'm talking about Republicans who are not, Republicans who are either not up for re-election or are up for re-election. I don't see any Republicans, with the exception maybe of Mitt Romney, who's wavering.
He's
who got
he
the
was
finger,
Mitt, exactly. He was
finger
Mitt.
in the air.
He did the Mitt.
That's unbelievable. That's the part that's. I mean, I don't even know if it's normal. It's like they're his enablers.
Yeah.
So, you buy that distinction?
To your point, I pulled. I try to bring a tweet. That's something I think is insightful. So. This former U.S. Air Force, USAF, Andrew Goss, I follow him on Twitter, and he made a couple of bullet points. He says, attacking Gold Star families, attacking John McCain, attacking Robert Mueller, attacking Alexander Vindman. Republicans don't ever get to claim that they're the party who supports the troops ever again, all for a draft-dodging bone spur. And that's to your point, that how he's taken over the Republican Party, that they would look to slander Lieutenant Colonel Alexander Vindman, who came to the White House fully decorated with shrapnel still inside his body from an IED. So again, that they would attack him. He's currently in the administration. He's active duty for this president, the president that couldn't be bothered to be drafted for his fake bone spurs. It is absolutely amazing what he's done with the party. That's the one thing I do credit him for, and it's disgusting.
Wait, what do you mean you credit him for that?
I just credit Trump with being able to co-opt the party the way that he has. I mean, every supposed value that conservatives stood for, he's destroyed. They can't say that they're the party of fiscal responsibility. Look at the deficits. Right. They can't say that they're about patriotism. This is a guy who's co-opted by Putin. So what is it that they really stand for? Because everything, they can't even be about family values because he grabs them by the you know what.
Right.
He has.
Well, what the one thing he gives them that they want is judges. He's loaded up the courts with these right-wing judges who will be impacting our laws for
decades.
For decades, yeah, half a century or so. And so he's done that, and they're very happy about that because they see that as a means of protecting what they claim they value.
All right, to flip the switch on you then, do you see anything comparable in the Democratic Party where Democrats have tolerated outrageous behavior for the short-term interests of, let's say, nominating judges? Do you think
judges have never been, unfortunately, we're just now waking up to that strategy. You know, the Republicans have been fighting for judges since Bork. That was the straw that broke the camel's back with them when in 85, 86, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
When Bork was up for maybe 87, but it didn't have
Ronald Reagan appointed him to fill a vacancy in the Supreme Court, and Joe Biden was the head of the Judiciary Committee, and they rejected Bork's.
Exactly. And Mitch McConnell was in Washington at that time, and he swore that his mission was going to be to load up the courts. And that's what he's doing.
That's what he's all about.
Yeah.
So, all right.
And Trump is going. I mean, actually, it's Mitch's idea that Trump is just like, okay.
All right. So remove the issue of the judges' side. Have you ever seen Democrats betray all their values, throw out everything they supposedly believe in for a short-term gain?
Yeah. What's that guy's name? The producer.
Oh, Harvey Weinstein?
Right, thank you. Yeah, with Harvey Weinstein, right? We've seen all that reporting out of Ronan Farrow about how he was silenced. NBC silenced him. Rachel Maddow came out and talked about it. Chris Hayes came out and condemned their own networks. So if it's the right thing.
But that wasn't Democrats, though. That was corporate America.
Well, what you're saying is that there are other examples aside from the Republicans.
Right. But politically speaking,
yeah.
I haven't seen it. I mean, I'm still stinging over Al Franken. So
right, exactly.
No, you're one of the people out there who think Al Franken should have held on to his seat.
I do. Given where we are, we got rid of Al Franken as expeditiously as we did because we thought if we set the example that then Republicans would play by that rule book. And what we've learned is they don't care.
Exactly.
We can kick out whoever we want to kick out. They're going to do what they will turn right around and not do it to someone in their party that does it. So we can't. You just can't convince them to do the right thing. It's not going to happen. So if they're telling us how to play the game, I say we play the game with their rules.
And the latest example of that is this woman, Representative Hall, out of California. I forget her first name, but she just resigned from Congress because she had an affair with one of her staff members, and so she resigns this. I mean, and it's really an interesting story. I mean, she and her husband were getting divorced, and it was a rancorous divorce. He put out the word that he ran pictures of her with her staff member as a lover, and the staff member was a woman also, that she's bi. And so he puts this out, as revenge porn. And so she gets kicked. She's the first woman to get caught up in the Me Too movement. And, it's like nothing's been proven yet. She just had the accusation, but they forced her to resign. She resigns out of that. And ironically, here's another irony to that, is George Papadoe is going to run.
Oh, yeah.
He's running for her seat. Yeah,
the kid from Niles West High School who spent 14 days or whatever
who did jail for
his role in Trump.
Papadopoulos.
Yeah,
Papadopoulos, yeah.
Well, I got to say this about Franken. We're in a tangent with a tangent. We'll get back to Trump. But I believe that if you have principles, you should stand to your principles. And it shouldn't be about, we're going to hope that Republicans follow. You either believe in this stuff and you stand to it, or you don't believe in this stuff and you don't stand to it. And all institutions in our country, Atiba and Monroe, are being forced to deal with Me Too stuff.
Right.
The entertainment industry, talk about Harvey Weinstein. Everybody's looked the other way. Harvey Weinstein, they were making jokes about it at the Oscars back in 2005. Everybody laughing about it. Everyone knew what was going on with Harvey Weinstein.
Yeah, he put a capital C on casting couch.
That's the Monroe Anderson. He's back from Hollywood with his wisecracks. So, and we've seen it in the financial world. We've seen it in politics. So finally we're reconciling ourselves. We're coming face to face with the situation where men are predators and preying on women who are helpless because they owe their jobs to them, their livelihood, et cetera, and so forth. So, if the I share your general sense, Atiba, that it's not fair that these arguments are only on the Democratic side. It's the same thing with criminal justice. We're going to get into Trump's speech, but Kamala Harris is under fire for her position as Attorney General of the state of California, for her locking people up without giving them due process, without considering that maybe they're, unfairly treated, et cetera. So Republicans they just give the middle finger at the whole notion of just locking up black people all the time. Right. So it's like there's two standards. The argument is only in the Democratic side. So it is a frustrating thing.
And then with Franken, I just think that was a bad move overall. I mean, you had this photograph of him pretending to feel F-E-E-L.
Yes, I understand.
Up a woman.
Yeah.
Who had a flak jacket on. Now, if you got to try to do that, you would think there'd be more exposure.
So you're saying it was just a joke?
It was a joke. He was clowning. She was pretending to be asleep. She wasn't even asleep. But you have his photograph with her hands.
Yeah, she's acknowledged that she was just pretending to be asleep.
I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know.
But I do know he wasn't a senator when he did it. Right. That was before he was a senator. So had that picture been taken while he was an active senator, maybe I could see it. But again, I mean, the picture wasn't definitely in poor taste. I get it.
Right.
But this is a Senate seat.
Right.
This isn't one of 435 Congress. This is a Senate seat.
Right.
So even if we were going to get to that point, that process should have been way slower. Much more investigating being done. It was way too fast to just give up a Senate seat for that.
Right.
All right, we'll let that one go. That we're relitigating a situation that went down over a year ago, but I could fire something back. But you know what? Just like I did with Mayor Lori Lightfoot Atiba, I'm going to let it go for the moment. We're going to take a break. We come back. We're going to be talking more Trump with Monroe Anderson and Atiba Buchanan. We'll be right back.
The Chicago Reader to get up to speed on what's what in Chicago. Culture, food, arts and entertainment, weekly concert listings, weekly event listings, the environment, travel. I can continue, but you get the point. And for all of you Chicago political junkies, raw weekly columns on real city politics from Maya Dukmasova and our very own Ben Joravsky. The Chicago Reader, free to the public in newsstands throughout the city and online at chicagoreader.com. Read it now and be a more informed Chicagoan.
How do you respond to people who think that, regardless of the underlying facts, the way you handled the question of your Native American heritage was tone-deaf, offensive, and indicative of a lack of presidential tact?
Well, I grew up in Oklahoma. I learned about my family from my family. And based on that, that's that's just kind of who I am. And I do the best I can with it. You know, there was an investigation. Nothing I ever did or my family played any role in any job I ever got. But I'll tell you this, I have now done 38 town halls in Massachusetts last year, and this is my 32nd town hall since January. And what I've discovered is that people care a lot about what's happening to their lives.
Today's Ben Joravsky Show was brought to you in part by Green Element Resale. All together, everybody, Green Element Resale. They're located at 6241 North Broadway in Chicago, and people, best thrift shop I've ever been to in my life. Monday through Saturday, 11 a.m. until 7 p.m. Sundays, 12 until 7 p.m. It's Green Element Resale. They have books, they got clothes, they got furniture, antiques. Ben loves the candles there. Am I lying?
No, I love candles.
My goodness, he loves candles. He loves the cannabis candles. Still, I don't know what about those, but they got candles, they got antiques, mattresses, clothes, tons of stuff. Go check it out. It's Green Element Resale. Once again, 6241 North Broadway in Chicago. And it's right. What's so funny?
I love candles.
I know you do.
I love that cannabis candle.
Right between Devon and Granville off of Broadway, you may see a big giant Green Element Resale truck. And if you go to Green Element Resale, tell them you heard this ad on the Ben Joravsky Show. I'm not sure if they'll give you anything. Maybe. I don't know. More than likely not. But it's Green Element Resale, and you can find more information at greenelementresale.com. Once again, greenelementresale.com. Welcome back to the Ben Joravsky Show, live from the Chicago Sun-Times.
Atiba Buchanan and Monroe Anderson in the studio with me. We're talking Trump. But before we get back to them, I believe the young doctor has an update.
Yes, I do. Not a doctor. Okay. This comes from the Chicago Sun-Times. We got a teacher strike update here. This is at about 12:53 this afternoon.
Breaking news.
Breaking. Make the breaking news noise. Oh, there it is. Good sound effects here on the Ben Joravsky Show. All right, it says here, 12:53 p.m., about 500 members of the Chicago Teachers Union converged on the corner of Roosevelt Road and Clark Street this afternoon to protest the development of the 78.
Hell yeah.
The development is one of two mega projects that received substantial public funding from City Council. I mean, we say that, but you know that if you listen to this program. Ben talks about the 78 all the time. Just before 1 p.m., it says they flooded the intersection of Roosevelt Road and Delano Court, shutting down traffic. I got some audio to play here from that. This is on Twitter. Hopefully it sounds good. And it doesn't.
By the way, speaking of Twitter, Atiba is going to email something to Dennis so that Dennis can play it later. This is breaking the fourth wall here. So do you have his email address?
Well, I got the email right here already. But we'll be keeping you posted on the Chicago teacher strike as long as we're here on the program. Ben Joravsky, back to you.
Yeah, I just to help people out a little bit. By the way, we have a mystery guest coming up pretty soon to talk about the teacher strike. She's getting ready to talk teacher strike. But that TIF deal, that's exactly what it is. It's a TIF deal in the South Loop at Roosevelt Road. That Dennis said, what was it? Roosevelt Clark Street. Huge tract of undeveloped land. It's been sitting there forever and ever. City of Chicago's not quite sure what they want to do with it. The general idea all along has been that the city has to subsidize the development because, I don't know, because that's what the city does. It subsidizes development. Just don't let developers take the risk on their own. And my attitude...
Contributions.
Thank you. Monroe knows the game. That's how you get contributions. He says you subsidize development and the developers subsidize you. That's how it goes in the city of Chicago. All right, teachers better learn that. All right, and
give them some money.
It's like it's like watering a plant. If you water the plant will turn around and water you. Okay, such a thing as possible. What's that plant in that Little House of Horrors? Remember the big plant? The little plant. Anyway, so it's. So that's a TIF deal. I think that's a $1.1 billion. That's a billion with a B. TIF deal. They're subsidizing that one as opposed to the $1.3 billion with a B at Lincoln Yards. And both of those TIF deals were passed by the City Council. Mayor Rahm's last City Council meeting before he left office. As I like to say, Mayor Rahm left office the way he came in, Monroe Anderson, with 2 middle fingers raised high at the city of Chicago, and the people were dumb enough to elect him in the first place. And I just want to point out, Monroe Anderson, I did not vote for Mayor Rahm back in 2011.
Take a chill pill, man.
That's because you're jealous that he didn't make you his press secretary.
Oh, yeah, right. Correct. Oh, yes. Mueller. Quick to agree. Can you imagine me as Mayor Rahm's press secretary? Well, hey, boss, what am I supposed to say about this? Shut up and just say anything, okay?
You'd be like Sean.
Oh, Spicer?
Yeah,
I'd be on
Spicy.
Dancing with the Stars.
Exactly.
Man, I dance as good as Sean Spicer right now without the lessons. So anyway, all right, that's the latest teacher update. Monroe, all right, let's break down. There's some of the things that happened the 3 weeks you were gone. Where to start? Let's start, I guess, what do you want? I've got a whole list of them. William Taylor, his testimony before Congress. You want to talk about that a little?
Well, let's talk about the fact that we've had 10 witnesses, fact witnesses, to come before the House talking about Trump's crime, how he tried to shake down President Zelensky of Ukraine, into meddling in our presidential election. Mm-hmm. The very thing that he has denied he did with the Russians in 2016, he's trying to do in 2020. And the Republicans are doing backflips, trying to claim that it's not happening, and it didn't happen. It's not happening now. Ironically, we've learned that, well, not ironically, just real. We've learned that the day after it became apparent that the Mueller report was not going to impact him and have any consequences, is when he got on the phone with Ukraine and start setting up this deal.
Do you think there's a direct correlation
between
feeling that he was?
Yes, and that's how he
impervious?
operates. He's operated. The thing is, he is rotten to the core. So he's operated this way for 50 years on every kind of, even to the, okay, here's another example. He's famous for not paying people who did work for him. Painters, plumbers, you name it, craftsmen on his building. He would pay them some. They'd have a contract, and he'd pay them some of the money, but not all of it. And then say, take me to court, and they'd tie it up in the courts. With his campaigns, rallies in these various cities, he's not reimbursed them, although he has $125 million in his campaign or more. More than that. But anyway, he's not reimbursed the cities for the expenses, the extra expenses they had, where they had to bring police protection and what have you. And so all these cities are complaining because he's left them holding the bag, as he did with his plumbers and painters, etc. The man is just no good.
Atiba?
Yeah, first of all, everything he said is right. He has always been known for not paying his contractors, which I found just hilarious because I listened to his speech again to the Chicago police officers, and he talked about Jussie Smollett, and he said he would be better off if he paid us $100,000 that he owed for all the overtime. And I was like, oh my God, look who's talking about owing people money and leaving them hanging. So yeah, that's what he's known for. If he can't pay it, he won't. If he can get away with it. And to your earlier point about him being emboldened, if you think he was emboldened after the Mueller report, and that's in no small part thanks to Bill Barr,
right?
Attorney General Bill Barr,
Attorney General Bill Barr putting that fire out for him. If you think he was emboldened after that, God forbid he wins this election. You haven't seen anything until you've seen a second-term Trump.
Talk about that.
Well, again, because now he won't have to worry about being reelected. He won't have to worry. He's already made it clear that he's only the president of his base. And he'll try and placate a few independents here and there enough to win again. But once he's won again for that second term, and now he doesn't have to worry about trying to represent all of America, then he knows he can just act a fool. And on top of that, he knows a lot of the crimes that he would have been indicted for in his first term will have, by the time he leaves office, passed the
except he will have committed. He's committed
limits.
All sorts of other crimes.
Right, so except all the new ones.
He's a crime
right.
machine.
You know, in Monroe, this is another point. I got to ask you about this. This is not on my list, but it just popped into my mind while you were gone on vacation. Donald Trump gave a speech at a historical black college in the South, talking about patting himself on the back for being the greatest friend black people have ever had, in terms of the law he passed, the bill that he got Congress to pass. I really don't know what actually did for anybody who's in jail, to tell you the honest to God truth, other than give Trump a talking point on criminal justice. And I have a hard time believing. I really do. Okay, now feel free to vigorously disagree with me that any black voter in the United States is dumb enough to listen to that speech and come away saying, yeah, you know, the man makes a good point. I think I'll vote for Donald John Trump. What do you think?
James N.
Well, he was already saying that. I'm talking about anybody who wasn't already for Donald Trump.
Oh, yeah, no.
Okay,
no.
I mean, he has his black support. I believe it's less than 1%.
Yeah, it's like Kanye West.
Right, exactly. Well, who now says it was a big joke?
I missed that. Did he actually say that?
I didn't see
that.
that.
He did. He said he was joking. He said it was a big put on. His support of
He's
Trump.
still wearing MAGA hats, but okay.
He said he says it was almost like he was catfishing or something.
Well, so what is the point of Donald Trump going to a historically black college and giving that speech?
Those are people that are begging for money.
Right. And it was a photo op. Only 10 black students were invited.
Yep.
10. And 3 of them had classes or something. So 7 showed up.
They literally told all the other students to stay in their dorms.
Right.
Yeah, they locked them down.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So again,
they didn't want any protests.
That is embarrassing.
Because I mean, and this is what is so delicious about Trump being booed
at the game,
right?
At the World Series game. Yeah,
because for the last 2.5 years, they have carefully curated his audiences, so they're all just pro-Trump and love him and cheer or what have you. They couldn't curate the World Series, so he got booed. And he didn't know how to take it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, because what's happened, one of the things that's happened is they only show him good news. His feed every morning with the clippings and what have you. They only show him praise. That's what he because he's a narcissist. That's the only thing he's interested in. So they have grown to don't bring him no bad news.
Yeah.
Don't nobody bring me.
Yeah, right, exactly.
No bad news.
Yeah, exactly.
That's from the Wiz.
Yeah, right,
Atiba,
exactly.
Please take a little dive on the speech that Donald Trump, I know you want to talk about this. Donald Trump was in Chicago on Monday giving a speech to a collection of police chiefs from across the United States. One police chief who was not there is our very own Eddie Johnson, police superintendent here in the city of Chicago. Eddie Johnson said, you know what, I'm not going for doing that. I don't know if you guys saw this. You were in L.A. Hanging poolside. But sorry, I love teasing Monroe about going to L.A. But
and where are you going for Thanksgiving?
L.A.
Okay,
I'll be wearing my shades. But for doing that, the Fraternal Order of Police here in the city of Chicago had a no confidence vote. The board for so that can't dig that. But anyway, help people out a little bit. The significance of that speech and what he did there.
Yeah, so basically, the overtone of the speech was to basically tell police that he loves them, that they have no greater supporter than him, and I guess he tries to substantiate it by saying he and William Barr, Attorney General, are going to release $600 million of military-grade equipment to local police offices around the country. So he wants them to have all of this high-tech stuff that our military uses
to further militarize the police,
exactly,
as an occupying army in the black community.
Absolutely. He also talked about what he called, to borrow a word from George W. Bush, a surge. So he said he and William Barr are going to have a surge. We're going to notice results very quickly, as he likes to say. So there's apparently going to be some type of surge in what he called high crime urban areas and high crime rural areas. We don't know what that's going to look like, but as he was saying it, all I could just see was folks' civil violations just being violated left and right, civil rights being violated left and right. So again, it was just a speech to really, because he took a lot of time to talk about Eddie Johnson. He talked about Chicago crime rates and the number of murders, which are down, but he made it sound as if I think his quote was, "Afghanistan is a safer city than Chicago."
You know, and the thing that's appalling, as many things are with him, is he is the most lawless president in American history, and he's pretending to be a law and order president.
That's what frustrates me. To listen to him, I'm like, you love law enforcement until they're coming after you.
Right.
You love the Constitution until it constrains you. I mean, he literally said your phony emoluments clause.
Right.
Wait a minute. I thought Republicans were strict constitutionalists. And now this guy can go around saying the phony emoluments clause. And of course, in the speech to these police officers, he talked about what a Second Amendment lover he was. So again, he gets to pick and choose what parts of the Constitution he likes, what parts of it he doesn't like. He gets to pick and choose when he supports law enforcement and when he doesn't.
Well, mainly he lies.
And
mainly that's
he
the
lies.
baseline.
Right.
Is, you know, even with this memorandum that he's calling a transcript of his phone call with Zelensky, he is saying that it was a verbatim, and there was nothing in there. There's a verbatim, and it's not verbatim. It's a summary, and it says that at the top of the page.
No, and this is what was so important. By the way, I want to move on to the transcript and Vindman.
Can I just say one other thing about the police thing? Because this is the whole point of it.
Yeah.
The whole point of it is, as you mentioned, with the vote of no confidence, what we saw was a lot of the things that he said, appalling as they were, received raucous applause. And these are people that are supposed to be, you hear about the thin blue wall. I didn't see any support for Eddie Johnson. So now he can come in, talk about a police officer, and the other police officers clap for it.
Well, if you looked at it on TV, you notice most of those police chiefs were white.
Right.
And so we keep coming back to race.
No,
also.
the race, and I've said this on the show so many times, Atiba. When I've been seeing this for years and years, following what I'm about to say. Somehow or other, white people and black people can join the military, be in the same military, and come out, have the same set of experiences in the military, face the same kind of wars, similar with black people and white people, join the police force, have similar experiences, serve for the same institution, play by the same rules, be up against the same crimes and pressures. But when they emerge, somehow or other, many, at least the loudest white guys, the loudest white veterans, and the loudest retired white cops are pro-Trump.
Yeah.
I can't find any retired black cops, and I know a bunch of them who are pro-Trump, okay? Right. I don't know many, I can't think of any black veterans, and I know a bunch of them too, who are pro-Trump. So somehow or other, a black guy and a white guy goes to the same exact thing, and yet the white guy takes away a lesson that says, I'm for Donald Trump. And the black guy is a Democrat. Please explain that to me.
I can't, because, again, like we said earlier, Donald Trump is to Monroe's point, the most lawless president ever. And he was lawless before he was president, and he's seen no reason to stop being lawless in the presidency. That is the hardest thing for me to stomach about him, because he is nothing. He's not a patriot. So again, for him to talk about NFL players and call them what we know he called them SOBs on a platform of patriotism is just phony. And that's my biggest problem with Trump, is that he is completely phony in everything that he's supposed to represent.
He's a con man. He is a
grifting.
Yeah, he's a grifter, and his people are willing to be con.
All right, now before we're running out of time here, because I want to bring our mystery guest on to talk about Chicago Public Schools. Mr. Guest is all fired up, ready to talk. She's doing push-ups in preparation before she comes on. But before I bring
playing
her on,
Rocky music.
yeah, she's playing.
All right,
and writing down her talking points all at the same time.
She has to have to write it down because she knows when she's going to speak from her heart. It's not a talking point. So moving away from Trump, but still involving Trump, got to get your opinion about Facebook and the testimony of Mark Zuckerberg in Congress about a week ago. Monroe, I don't know if you were paying attention because I know you're hanging on that coast, but they do have TV on the coast, don't they?
Yes,
okay.
And I have I have MSNBC on my Sirius radio.
Wherever you go.
Exactly.
But it was quite astounding. And AOC, I give her a shout out, Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez from New York, really had Mark Zuckerberg on.
She is so sharp. Yeah, she is one sharp young lady.
Yes.
I mean, she is like amazing.
She
cuts to the trail.
To the chase,
to
right
the chase.
to it.
Yeah, she goes to the chase. Yeah.
So Mark Zuckerberg's attitude in the confrontation, his point, I'd love to get your thoughts on this, Atiba Buchanan. You're a talk show host. Mark Zuckerberg is essentially saying that politicians have a free speech right to lie on Facebook with their commercials, their advertisements that they're paying Facebook to put on, I might add. They're free to lie, and he's not responsible for any of the lies they tell about their opponent. And so, as Ocasio-Cortez put it right to him, could a Republican go on Facebook with a commercial accusing another Republican of being for the Green New Deal? And he was momentarily, he didn't know what to say. I believe it's because he didn't know what the Green New Deal was, but that's a whole other thing. Atiba Buchanan, you have a talk show. Could you go on your talk show on WVON and just lie about what a person's position is?
I mean, of course not. We're held to a different standard, but I'm going to surprise you and say I kind of understand where he's coming from.
Explain.
Well, Facebook is a platform that shares information, but he's not the source of the information. So he's, again, it's kind of like this show, or a radio show that is brokered that says the ideas of this show or the opinions of this show are not those of. And to me, he has that same type of protection. Yeah, you're seeing this on Facebook, but it's not necessarily the opinion of Facebook. I think it's up to people to police themselves and figure out what type of information they're going to consume. I think it would be a daunting task because when you say lie, every politician, I hate to say this, but it's true. Every politician lies to some, or colors the truth. So how do you police that to the degree that it becomes fair for everybody? I don't know that you can. You got the fact checkers. They can show you. They give noses, Pinocchios.
Yeah.
They can, what is the bottom line? If it's one Pinocchio, you can let that slide, but if it's 4, we got to fact check that and correct it and not let it on.
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. And I agree with him. However, the problem is that Facebook is so huge. It has 2 billion friends on there. 2 billion people. I mean, nothing has been more powerful in communications and media than Facebook is. And so you have to have some sort of method to not let them just run the obvious lies. Of course, there are shadings and spins and all that. That's one thing. But if somebody put on Facebook that I was a serial killer, then they ought to be able to stop that.
But we have things in. Let me push back on you a little bit, though.
Yeah.
But we have mechanisms in place for that. It's called slander. So if somebody said that about you, slander, libel, that's what those things are for, right?
Yeah, but in the past, it's not just the person who says the slander that's held accountable. It's the conveyor of the slander. So, for instance, in the famous case,
real media,
with real media,
that's what I'm saying, because I don't consider Facebook real media. That's I guess that's my entire point.
Yeah, but they have become.
They control it.
More people get news from Facebook than any of the networks.
To promote my show, I have to put it on Facebook. That's the rule. They own it. Right. They have cornered the market. To quote my dear friend Norm, they're gangsters, and they have cornered the market. And you have to do the same thing.
So you are literally hitting Facebook with Ben Parker's "With great power comes great responsibility" speech.
That is correct. Yes, that is. Hey, where's that? That is correct.
Right.
Yeah, thank you. Absolutely.
Uncle Ben.
Uncle
Okay.
Ben. Yeah.
Right.
I do think with great power comes great responsibility, and I do think that AOC did a good job of.
Yeah. No.
She did.
And Atiba makes a great point with that, and it's a difficult problem, but we've got to resolve it.
Well, I got to tell you this.
Yeah.
My advice, to the point that Atiba made.
Yeah.
My advice to the people of the city of Chicago, I'm making the same advice for at least 10 years, is never, ever, ever believe a nice thing a politician says about him or herself in a commercial, and don't believe a nasty thing they say about their opponent. Just don't believe commercials.
I agree.
That's just my advice to the Chicago voters for all these years. So anyway, all right, very good. Atiba Buchanan and Monroe Anderson. We're going to take
As
a
we
break.
segue into commercials.
We segue into commercials. And
believe these commercials, guys.
Wait, I didn't say these commercials are not political commercials. All right, okay. And we have our mystery guest. We're going to bring her on when we return. When you lose a loved one whose wishes were to be cremated, Chicagoland Cremation Options provides your family a dignified and affordable cremation service. Chicagoland Cremation Options helps you bypass the expensive overhead of a funeral home or cemetery by streamlining the cremation directly. It saves you sometimes thousands of dollars. Chicagoland Cremation Options Crematory, just south of O'Hare, 5 minutes west of Chicago. It's a family-owned business operated by my good friend Douglas Klein. You can find them at ChicagolandCremationOptions.com. One more time, ChicagolandCremationOptions.com. Hey, everybody, what you're about to hear are the piano stylings of Jeff Manuel. Man, listen to Jeff go. Jeff Manuel has been playing piano around Chicago for years. He's played for conventions, for celebrities, played in basement bars with blues bands. He's played at prestigious social clubs, fine restaurants, and in the intimacy of private homes. Book Jeff Manuel at jeffemanuelpianist.com. Don't worry, I'll spell his name at the end of this commercial. You know what Chicago Magazine said? They said that Jeff Manuel is, quote, as comfortable with Chopin as he is with Cole Porter. He's excellent and his performance is joyous. He offers an elegant stream of compositions and interpretations that entertains the mind but won't hurt the ears. To hear more of Jeff Manuel's work and to book Jeff for your next event, go to jeffmanuelpianist.com. I'm going to spell it out for you, people. J-E-F-F. M as in Mary, A, N as in Nancy, UELPIANIST.com. Take it away, Jeff Manuel.
Monroe's in the camera. Welcome back to the Ben Joravsky Show, live from the Chicago Sun-Times. Mr. Joravsky, take us home.
We've been talking Trump, Monroe Anderson. I love it that he's back in town. I've been teasing him about being on the coast. He's back. And Atiba Buchanan, who never leaves the city of Chicago. He loves it so much. We have a mystery guest on. We're going to bring her on to talk about the teacher strike. She's been on the show once before, so she's really no mystery to the show. But before we do that, got an update for me, D?
Absolutely, I do. And Monroe's still in the camera shot.
There we go.
All right, awesome. All right, we're providing you with some updates here on the Chicago teacher strike, and we do have an update. This is from about 2:34, so not long ago here. This comes from the Chicago Sun-Times. After protesting, union members briefly blocked traffic near the 78, which, by the way, Ben, refresh everybody. What's the 78 real quick?
The 78 is a mega TIF deal in the South Loop.
The rally
TIF-funded deal, I should say. Go ahead.
The rally became a march west on Roosevelt Road, with the group eventually congregating at the University of Illinois Chicago campus, where a stage had been set up for speakers from the CTU. So currently, right now, the union is holding a rally at UIC. Hey, that's right down the street from us.
Right down that street, right down Racine.
All right, everybody, after the show, let's party, UIC. Into this march, teachers that were arrested yesterday at Sterling Bay addressed the strikers. They accused the media of misreporting what happened and said they wanted to set the record straight. I have a quote from one Hilario Dominguez. She said, yesterday when we showed up... What's that?
It's a he.
Oh,
okay.
It's a he.
Yeah.
Yesterday when we showed up to Sterling Bay, we had no intention of getting arrested. We wanted to deliver a letter asking them to come to the table and negotiate the billions of dollars they received to give us our money we need to close our contract.
All right, they're setting the record. Always blaming the media. I'm going to stand up for my brothers and sisters in the media, all right? Mystery guest. Teachers are so mean to the media, okay? Mystery guest, Anita Buchanan is her name. She's been on the show once before, right?
Yes, sir.
And talking about the life of a special ed teacher in the city of Chicago. So I'm not going to ask you about the strike and the issues at the table and what Lori said to Stacy, et cetera, and so forth. I want you to help people understand what's at stake for not just teachers, who special ed teachers, but kids in special ed classes in the city right now, and what's at stake with this strike.
Well, I have a unique perspective. Although I am a special education teacher, I'm part of what they call the inclusion method. So I am legally responsible for special education students, but I help all of the students, and all of the students belong to me. So when we talk about the strike, it's very personal for me. Anyone that follows me on social media, I'm a teacher of Instagram. I'm very transparent about my feelings toward the strike. And we have a lot of naysayers. I just want to make it clear, not everyone is in support of us being on the picket lines. We've gotten some very interesting gestures from some people in some very luxurious cars that go down our street. So not everyone is in agreement with the strike, and it's very hurtful because this is my first strike. As you know, I am a new CPS teacher. This is technically my first year in CPS. So I've been in education for 16 years, but the transition into CPS, I'm walking right into a strike. So I'm learning a lot all at once. It's very emotional. Any teacher will tell you we miss our children. We wonder how they're doing. We know not all of them have the best home life. Not all of them may be in the best positions right now. And many of the children want to be with us. And as a mother and as a teacher, and in particular, a special education teacher, it's very hurtful. I just had a discussion on Twitter that I started. How many of us are sleeping? How well are we sleeping? And the answer is not very well. So a strike is not a vacation, as many people know, and some people don't know because I do read the comments. We do not get paid for it. We still have bills to pay. We still put gas in our car to go to the strike locations. Some of us are on waivers where we travel. I travel up to an hour, 10 minutes some mornings to get to my job, and all of that is on me right now. But the well-being and the welfare of my students is well more important than any sacrifice that I make in my home.
Now, let's talk a little bit about the people who make nasty gestures to striking teachers. There's a joke on the show that we do about Jesse Sharkey, who's the head of the teachers union, always doing these press conferences outside of school where they're striking teachers, and you just hear the horns thundering support.
Yeah.
I just want to understand, do you think most of the people that go by your school where you're on strike are supportive of teachers? Is it a minority that are opposed, that they give you the nasty, I presume it's the middle finger that they're
Yes,
raising?
sir.
Okay, they're Ron voters.
They give us the salute. So what I found is, and I can't speak for everyone, but I do feel supported by the city. I do feel supported by parents. I definitely feel supported by my village, so to speak. But I find that the people that do give us the middle finger, they perceive us as being spoiled, as being whiny, and they don't talk about any other issues except for the money, the raise. And it's so far beyond that. For me, I've had 42 students in a classroom, and I've seen the type of management that it takes, lack of seating because there are so many students in a classroom. So when you see these things firsthand, the amount of money that I make is not on the forefront of my mind right now. Once again, if money were an issue, we'd go back to work. We're not making money right now. And for a lot of people, we're one paycheck away from poverty. So not everyone has money stashed up, and not everyone anticipates being on strike. So this is well more of a heart issue. Any teacher will tell you that it's a lot of sacrifices being made behind the scenes. My contractual day, I walk in the door at 7:30. Since we've been on strike, I'm required to be there at 6:30. So we're there crack of dawn, and I'm sitting in my car, and it's pitch black outside, and I am female, so I have concerns about safety. So you risk a lot and you sacrifice a lot. And I just want to give kudos to my fellow educators. I think everyone takes it in stride. I watch social media, and I think a lot of teachers pull back because we know that a lot of people don't understand. But it is definitely a minority group of people who don't understand what it is that we do. And teaching goes far beyond our contractual hours. He can tell you.
He being the husband sitting next to her. For our podcast listeners who don't get to see the he, Mr. Atiba, go ahead. Yeah.
Yes, sir. He can tell you, I'm up on my phone, or, I'll come home and I'm in tears, or I'll come home and I'm falling asleep in my dinner plate, or there's so much more that goes on behind the scenes with teachers that I think the people that are giving us that lovely salute in the morning, they just simply don't understand.
Well, I just was defending the media a little while ago. Now let me take a little shot at the media here. My brothers and sisters in the media of the punditry class, the columnists and the editorial writers, really been negative to the teachers. Very few that I can think of. I can't think of any actually right now for the mainstream papers who stood up for the teachers and the sacrifice that teachers are making on this issue. And instead they generally act as though this is some kind of frivolous little thing that the teachers are doing because they want to party and bang a drum and dance and have a presidential candidate come by, as if somebody would put their life online, their kids' lives online, paychecks online, rent checks online, just to have the opportunity to have Elizabeth Warren show up and say, I support you. I'm a little disappointed in many of my brothers and sisters in the media. But talk about that. Talk about why you made that decision to support the strike.
It's extremely hurtful to think that any teacher would have any intention other than the well-being and welfare of their students. This is not a glamorous profession. I feel like the teachers, when I grew up, we respected them more. The profession was respected more. So I think nowadays more than ever, simply by being a teacher, you are taking a stand that we're going to love on and support these children despite what the media portrays, and despite what sometimes our parents can be rough on us too, and despite just what society says in general. So as I said, any teacher that's involved in this strike, we see firsthand. People read about it, people talk about it, people tweet about it. But to stand in a classroom firsthand and there are not enough seats for my students, it does something to your heart. And it does something to your mind to see that we don't have certain resources that we need, especially as a special educator, to see that our caseloads are very heavy. I know a lot of people aren't familiar with special education, but an IEP can take hours to write to try to find that time. Many of us will work on IEPs from home. We stay after school. We come in early. And those are the things that are not talked about. And I think those are the things that teachers remain very humble about. And we do those things almost in silence.
And those things are not compensated for.
Exactly.
That's the husband weighing in. Just to remind everyone, he knows it. I could tell you this, as the son of a teacher, retired, and I grew up. Part of the reason I have the view I do have is because my mom would come home and I would hear all these stories from the time I was a little boy about the bureaucracy of the Chicago public school system. This is going back to the 60s. And Lita, not that much has changed, let me tell you. And the strikes that they went through, and my mom's generation would like to tease your generation, because I always tell this to Stacey Davis Gates, your strikes are in the fall. They were sometimes around the winter. That's when teachers were teachers, okay? But no, teachers have always had a fight in this town, and they've never been supported by the mainstream media. And they've always been vilified for when they go on strike. And a lot of times it was just to get a pay raise. I recognize that. I, by the way, see nothing wrong with that. You should pay your teachers. But in this particular case, money is not the issue. It's classroom conditions.
That's the least of our worries right now, from what we see and what we endure. And once again, I have a unique perspective because I've been in a suburban school system this entire time. And so year 16, I walk into CPS and some things that are commonplace for me. You know, my children were very blessed to grow up in this system, and things that are very commonplace to us in the suburban school system are non-existent in CPS. And for me, I'm one of those people. I say I'm a unicorn. I feel that education should be fair for all students. Students don't choose their tax bracket. They don't choose where they live. So when I'm getting up an hour earlier and when I'm coming into the strike, you know, those are the things that are on my mind, is the privilege, honestly, that my kids have had growing up in a suburban school system and loving these students the way that I do and seeing that they're not getting a tenth of what my children have been allowed to have. And it's simply not fair. As an educator, it's just not fair.
I cannot remember this, so I'll apologize if I asked you this before, but did you go to Chicago public schools? Did you yourself grow up in the city?
I did not, and I'm a little bit jealous because so many teachers have that history and they have that pride. But I tell the kids, just because I didn't grow up in that school system doesn't mean I don't understand and fight for you just the same. So, and a lot of them ask me, why do you commute this far? Because I'm needed. I mean, I pass how many schools on my way to work? I commute over an hour. So
explain that, because you're a special ed teacher. There's a residency requirement for most Chicago public schools teachers.
Yes.
But since there's such a dire need of special ed, they waive that, correct?
Yes, sir.
And they also do that for, am I right, on science teachers? I believe
math, science, I believe. And definitely I know special ed.
See, this is no joke, folks. It's trying to get people to come to the city of Chicago. Generally, the people that run the city give the middle finger to teachers. They denigrate teachers. It's like they have to go on strike to get a raise. In 2012, I can go on and on. They made them work more, took the money away, so they're working more for less. Blame them for everything that goes wrong in the Chicago public schools. Give money to non-union charter schools to compete with teachers and undercut their very union. And then they're surprised. Oh, we're having a hard time recruiting people to come teach in the Chicago public schools. They say, well, we want the best and the brightest of all people to come teach in the public schools. Oh, here's a great way. How about that, Atiba? How about if Mark Zuckerberg said, you know what, I'm going to make Facebook the place that every single engineer and computer geek would want to go work. But the way I'm going to do that is pay them less, cut their benefits, make them work more, and insult them for everything that goes wrong with Facebook. How many people would show up to Facebook to work?
Yeah, absolutely. Only teachers have to bear that type of brunt. Firefighters never have to deal with that. Police never have to deal with that. It's only the teachers. As a matter of fact, I'd have a hard time imagining if police officers did strike, which I don't think they can.
No, they're not allowed to strike by law.
But if they did, I can't imagine that they would ever get that public sentiment of people hating on them because they decided to do that.
I wouldn't hate on the firefighters and the police if they want to fight. I would support them every bit as much as supporting the teachers.
Exactly.
Because they have very important jobs. There's a lot of bad police that we read about in the newspaper, but overwhelming majority of them are doing a decent job, in my humble opinion. And Lita Buchanan, thank you for the stand you've taken.
Thank you. Thank you for giving me the platform to even express my feelings and opinions. So I appreciate it.
All right, very good. That's Alita Buchanan.
Yay for our teachers! Yay for our teachers!
Ronner has a funny way of showing his love for the teachers. I want to thank the great Monroe Anderson. He's back from the coast, ladies and gentlemen, looking very dapper and cool from his time out in L.A. He's got his shades on. He says he looks like a young William Hooks. That's what he looks like, a young William Hooks. Another proud graduate of the Gary Public School System, am I correct? Atiba Buchanan as well, and Lita Buchanan, of course, the man, the myth, update.
We got a question here. Jay Marie weighed in on the YouTube live stream chat. She heard you talking there earlier. She's wondering, where did your mother teach?
Oh, my mother taught here in the city. Well, she taught a lot of different places, but she taught in public schools in the city of Chicago. She taught at Armstrong School, which is in West Riders Park. She taught at Bird School, which is, it's like a completely gentrified area. But it was a lower income area back in the day in the 60s when she was teaching there, and Anderson School. So my mom taught at 3 different schools in the Chicago public school system. Wow. God bless my mother.
All right, now call me White Lightning.
All right, anyway, the man, the myth, the legend, the pride and joy of Illinois. Back home, as Atiba knows, they call him White Lightning. The doctor. Give yourself a raise, take it out of petty cash. See you tomorrow, everybody.
That's correct.
And remember, you can download previous Ben Joravsky shows and Benny J bonus interviews at both Chicago Sun-Times and Chicago Reader websites, chicago.suntimes.com, chicagoreader.com, and wherever else you download your favorite podcasts. Hey, downloaders, we live stream this program. You know that, right? Yeah, we do. And, 2 days strong, baby. No shutdowns, no technical issues for 2 days in a row. We're going to keep that going. We're going to try at least. No promises. But you can live stream the program. Both Chicago Sun-Times and Chicago Reader websites at Benny J Show on Facebook. You can get the link there to the YouTube page and the Chicago Sun-Times YouTube page. We'll see you tomorrow, everybody.